Should the fans be choosing sides, or should we just be looking forward to the next release?
I can understand both sides of the story.
The most diverse roster of villains that we've had.
Yeah, Shimmer, Gorath.
How they're going to play Namor out.
There's also been rumors, obviously, about like Doctor Doom.
Kang.
Like, he's a serious deal.
If I had to guess, maybe Avengers 5.
Hopefully we all live long enough to see it. Jeff? Hey guys, Lord Deathman here, welcoming you to another edition of the Podcast of Champions, the show where we do a deep dive into all things fandom. We've got a great episode lined up for you today, especially if you are a fan of the MCU. I'll be talking with a panel of Sakaar's finest champions about Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. We guarantee it'll make you stronger. Also, check us out on the Sakaar fan forum at sakaar.freeforums.net. Okay, we've got a packed house today, so I want to introduce the panel so we can get right into the discussion. Champion, when I say your name, let everybody know how you're doing today and whatever else you want to add. So, joining us straight from his throne room, we have Sakaar's benevolent dictator, the Grandmaster.
Hi everybody, looking forward to discussing Phase 4 of the MCU, having a great time with my friends and colleagues.
Also joining us from all the way down under, we have Shadow Biz. How you doing today, man?
Not too bad. Hello, everyone.
Outstanding. We also have the so-called MCU fan without fear, Stanton. How are you doing today, man?
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because the MCU is the greatest cinematic achievement of all time. I wasn't going to say that until you... But I'm pumped for Phase 4. I'm looking forward to it. Let's chat.
All right, man. Can't wait to get into it. And last but certainly not least, we have a special guest star for you today, joining us from the MCU's Bleeding Edge podcast, Mr. Jeff Sloboda. How badly did I mangle that last name?
No, you know what? You nailed it.
Outstanding, man. Outstanding. How are you doing today, man?
Oh man, you know what? I'm about as stoked as I get for this Phase 4 discussion. I think this has been like a duly awaited topic that we needed to really put on the table. So
yeah, I thought so too. This feels like the right time to start talking about Phase 4 with Black Widow having just dropped, guys. But to all you out there in fandom land, I'd like to let you know that the Podcast of Champions is not filmed in front of a live studio audience. Here we go, guys. I want to dive right into the discussion. Here's a softball. I want to start with you, Grandmaster. We just kicked off Phase 4 with Black Widow. I think all of the faithful in the MCU fandom really enjoyed that film. And it has had a bit of a tumultuous sort of start, I would say, with Phase 4, especially on the cinematic level with this movie. We had a stutter stop in terms of box office. You could say that's because of the public health crisis that we're kind of going through around the world right now. There also was some news in the trades just this past week about the star of that particular movie filing suit against Disney for what she feels is missed opportunities in compensation. My question for you, Grandmaster, is: do you feel like this is a bad opening for the opening of Phase 4? Does this feel like a rocky start? Are we going to get past it? Is it a stutter step? Do you have any particular thoughts about Team Johansson's efforts to litigate against Disney?
I do actually. First up, we had a rocky start, but I don't think that's because of the quality of Black Widow. We just had to wait a longer time than expected. I mean, there were 2 years between Far From Home and Black Widow, where it actually was supposed to be a month or 9 to 10 months. It felt like a rocky start, but it had nothing to do with. It was out of our hands. Black Widow on itself is, I think it's a great movie. It's not MCU's best. It's not MCU's worst. I think it's mid-tier, upper mid-tier even. Um, there's not much wrong with it. We have discussed this on our review. You can find it on our YouTube channel, by the way. What we really thought about Black Widow, and yeah, when it comes to ScarJo and her lawsuit against Disney, I actually understand it to a certain extent. They promised her a certain cut of the box office, if I understand it correctly, and yeah, because of simultaneous release, a major part of the revenue has come through Disney Plus, which they consider not box office revenue, and I can understand why she feels hard done by. That being said, she should also have some consideration from her side concerning the specific circumstances, the pandemic. At a certain moment, you kind of have to do this kind of hybrid release. And yeah, I guess her bad luck was that Black Widow was the first movie up. We still haven't heard anything about if they're going to do a simultaneous release with Shang-Chi. I kind of expect that to happen because, yeah, the pandemic isn't over yet, not by a long shot. And so, yeah, overall, I do understand, and actually, I think I heard Emma Stone and Emily Blunt are also suing Disney. I think Disney should really consider the agreements they had with the movie stars and be reasonable towards them, because
start cutting some deals, right? And
yeah,
arbitration.
Yeah,
it sounds
exactly.
like it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great answer and really thoughtful there on that issue. My last question for you on this, just to follow on that, is in the dispute between Disney Corp and Team Johansson, should the fans be choosing side, or should we just be looking forward to the next release? This really feels like something.
Yeah, I'm actually not concerned with the corporate side of things. I mean, when it comes to money, I mean, I really don't care about that kind of stuff. It was ScarJo's last movie in the MCU anyway. As I understood it, she said so herself. And yeah, there's always going to be negotiations and legal trouble, but that doesn't concern me as a fan. I just like great content, and we got that with Black Widow, and I love Scarlett Johansson in the role, and I salute her for the job she's been doing. Yeah. And if she's coming back, I would applaud that. But it doesn't I don't choose sides. I can understand both sides of the story, and they just need to cut a deal and be done with it. And
yeah, I think those are words of wisdom, Grandmaster, in terms of, you know, the fans kind of staying out of the business side of this, and we can just look forward to the next few releases. Jeff, you had a follow-up on this?
I just want to drop one quick comment based off what Grandmaster said, and that is that I don't believe that's how things will play out. I think that Disney will litigate the shit out of this whole thing with these people and with ScarJo, because honestly, Scarlett Johansson's done with the MCU. Like, she's not a tangible like investment for Disney anymore, where they're going to make any more money off of her at this point. So at that point, it wouldn't surprise me, considering what the reason that she just didn't get these bonuses was the pandemic. It's just going to get litigated forever, and like eventually, let's just say they're not going to make a quick deal.
Depends on it. Maybe they want to work with her in the future on other projects or other franchises or anything. So you don't know what other negotiations are going on around in the background. So.
Personally, I think Johansson may just be moving into another stage of her development. I think she's looking towards entrepreneurship. She's been talking to Gwyneth Paltrow on the set of those movies, and she's like, how do I become a goop mini mogul, right? She's probably ready for something else. And, you know, the $50 million shortfall was probably a bit of an inconvenience in terms of getting to that point. But again, Grandmaster, I think you are absolutely right. I've seen a lot of the fans siding with Scarlett or siding with Disney, and I really think this is just business, and we should probably just put this kind of thing aside. So, anybody else on the panel have any thoughts on this? Or, well, oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I agree. I just want to echo that sentiment. This isn't a priority, at least in terms of a fan perspective. I don't think we should spend a whole lot of time with this. They'll figure this out in some way or another. There's probably there's probably a certain amount of fairness in terms of, both sides have to recognize the uniqueness of the situation. It's clearly not a normal situation. Disney didn't want to put this out on Disney Plus in tandem with putting it out in theaters. Scarlett, well, all of them are obviously expecting more money. It's not like Scarlett's the only one losing money here.
Yeah.
I remember Jeff and I, when we were talking about this on the MCU's Bleeding Edge, we were talking about how this could have, been around the $1 billion range or maybe even more. Who knows? So no, everybody's losing money here, and in the end, we're talking about millionaires versus billionaires. They'll work this out. I'm more concerned. I'm more concerned with the product at this point. They'll figure it out. I don't really care.
Indeed. And Jeff, did you have something you wanted to add as well?
Last thing I just wanted to mention on this, because I know this isn't really that important from a fan standpoint, is just that you got to take into consideration that they're setting a precedent here, like Disney is with Scarlett Johansson in this situation, and at that point that becomes very pivotal, because that's going to affect how things end up working out between them, the two different sides. They don't want to just kowtow immediately when they might have 10 other different actors or actresses that might sue them the same way.
Right. Yeah, they have to do a sort of a show of strength there. I'm going to go to Biz. It sounded like you had a quick follow-up to this, and then I'll take the last note on that from Stanton.
Yeah, I mean, we've already discussed this on the board. All I'd like to mention is, well, now that Bob Chapek is in charge, it seems like things are already going in a different direction with how talent are being treated, and how the movies are now being released on streaming and in the cinemas at the same time. So it's I've heard it being mentioned, so it's interesting how that's going to play out too. But yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic about that guy, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Chapek knows how to play hardball. Stanton?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that WB dumped all of their 2021 slate onto HBO Max for free. So I don't know how they're going to work that out if this ends up being a problem for the industry.
Indeed. And I'm sure those guys at WB, not to digress too much, they're probably cutting back end deals and side deals and giving people a couple of nickels on the dollar for whatever their bonuses were expected to be. But guys, I thought that was the elephant in the room this week, and we should probably just get it off the table as soon as we can. Sorry. That being said, I want to turn to our next champion and our next topic, villains of Phase 4. I think this is the most diverse roster of villains that we've had probably ever in the MCU. They're all coming from different backgrounds. They all have different power sets. They all have different points of view. I mean, before this phase is over, we've already seen Dreykov out of Black Widow. We're going to get the Mandarin. Shuma Gorath is heavily rumored for the Multiverse of Madness and perhaps No Way Home. We have Gore the God Butcher coming in Love and Thunder, possibly Namor. How excited are you guys about Namor coming in Wakanda Forever? Titania showing up in the She-Hulk, the Skrulls in Secret Invasion. I want to put this question to you, Biz, in terms of what sounds the most exciting from all of this huge mix of villains, and how do you think that this is going to interweave into possibly a larger story?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. Like you said, there's a lot of promising stuff to come. Especially if Namor comes true. I mean, I'm a big fan of that guy. He's quite a big character. I just love he can be a villain, but he's also a hero at times. So it'll be interesting how they play that character. He's awesome. There's also been rumors, obviously, about Doctor Doom maybe appearing in Black Panther, so that would be interesting as well. You have these other nations apart from Wakanda, obviously Atlantis and then Latveria. It'll be interesting how that dynamic plays out if that comes true. Yeah, like you said, like that was news to me actually with the, how do you pronounce it? Shugor. I'm probably butchering it.
Shumagorath is, I think, the proper pronunciation of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elder
Yeah.
God multiversal villain.
Yeah, Shumagorath. Yeah, that'll be very interesting. That also kind of is reminiscent of, in a way, like the Watchmen, like big villain at the end. I thought, like, with his like kind of like, I think he has some psychic abilities or like some kind of like I know he has teleportation and like other abilities, but he's from what I've read, like quickly, he's quite a powerful character, and he's like a ruler of like several parallel universes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. Especially like I wonder how Doctor Strange is going to fare with that villain, and also if he needs help from the other heroes. Because that's an uber villain. Like, I mean, like we've seen Kang, but like that's another level as well. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say. But yeah, like I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. And we started off with Dreykov, who gets spoilers. You can quickly turn off or mute during this moment. But Dreykov dies in Black Widow. So do you think we're going to go back to that particular formula in Phase 4 where we introduce a villain and then they kind of quickly drop off the scene? Or are you looking for Marvel to sort of reuse these villains and sort of keep them, in the stable somehow?
It really depends. I guess Marvel sometimes decides on how to use a Marvel to use a certain character again, depending on popularity, maybe some internet reactions or whatever. I don't know what the process is like, but yeah, if there's a strong support level of it, I can see them definitely reusing. Like, would I want to see Dreykov again? Not really, but I wouldn't be too opposed to it. Like, for example, like we're definitely going to see Kang again, like in a different version. Like, there are theories that we're going to see Kang the Conqueror instead, like Immortus is done with. But yeah, I'm always open to it. If it's done right, if the writing's good, yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right. Grandmaster, you had a follow-up from that?
Yeah. I think Marvel has been mix and match. Been doing that across 3 phases with their villains. Some were killed off and some were kept around. Loki was kept around. Zemo was kept around. Thanos was obviously kept around. I think they have a plan, and they will they know which character they will keep around and which character they won't keep around. And villains like Dreykov, I guess they are meant to be a one-off villain and then basically off them, and forget about them is a bit strong word, but they're only used once, and that's fine.
Fair enough. I want to turn to our next topic of discussion here, and I'd like to go to Stanton. I have a question for you about Phase 4 in terms of how it's shaping up. Phase 4 feels kind of like Phase 1 in that we're making some introductions here. We're seeing a lot of new characters, and the work that they did in Phase 1 was really foundational to being able to do things like the Infinity Saga. My question for you is, does Phase 4 feel like we're going back to introductions and then we might see a big arc really play out with Kang in Phase 5? Or do you think we're going to get that Kang style saga paying off right here in this phase?
No, I think that's a slow burn. I really do in terms of Kang. I think it's your question is a little bit of mix. It's a mix of both. I think we're going to see a lot of Phase 1 style introductions, maybe with like Shang-Chi, for instance. I don't know where that's going long term, but I it's a new beginning, it's a new character, and that has like an Iron Man, first Captain America, first Thor type of feel. We saw something totally different with a closeout film in Black Widow that we've never seen, which was a little bit of a prequel, and then obviously we knew that was ending, and maybe it left some threads that could be explored later, but There's going to be other things. My general feeling on Kang, since you mentioned him, is that we might see him, and I have no idea where exactly other than Quantum Mania, pop up in a couple of different places in different forms. We might see Jonathan Mayers get to play multiple different types of roles, which I think would be really interesting to see a completely different acted version of this character in each film. And then, if I had to guess, if you had to have me put like $100 on how that'll play out, is maybe Avengers 5. Like eventually we see like the ultimate version of him in Avengers 5 after we've seen a couple of other versions of him. But it's so complex with what they're doing, because I do feel like it is a lot of Phase 1 that we're going to be testing out some waters of different characters. Eternals is a brand new one, obviously, even though that plays into a lot of history of the MCU. I don't know. I think we have a chance of seeing characters like Namor, or as Biz mentioned, Doctor Doom, maybe being sort of not secondary villains, but lead up villains that ultimately kind of dovetail back into a Kang story. But I do think Kang is a slow burn that we're going to wind up seeing pay off, 6, 7, 8 years from now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. It does feel like they're going to take their time and try to get this Kang saga, this time traveling multiversal saga right. And Kang feels like it's going to kick off in full throttle once we get to Phase 5. But Grandmaster, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, well, I agree. And that's why I don't think Avengers 5 will actually be with Kang as the big bad. That maybe even Avengers 6. It feels like too early, because I have a feeling they will shortly announce Avengers 5 for 2024. And I doubt that Kang is done already in the MCU at that time. But it's just a feeling I have.
All right, so it looks like we got a feeling here that Marvel's playing the long game, which they're exceptionally good at, and they're thinking probably a decade in advance, who knows, maybe even longer about the franchise. But thanks for that, gentlemen.
Yeah, it was said a few years back already, even before Infinity War was announced, I think, that Kevin Feige had the MCU planned out until 2028, and that was before the Fox acquisition. So I expect he already has planned it out until 2032, if not longer.
Hopefully we all live long enough to see it. Jeff?
Yeah, I wasn't quick enough to get in about Biz's comment about Namor. I agree with the Grandmaster on Kang, as far as him not being the villain of the Avengers 5, because honestly, my take on Kang is that he's not going to be as powerful as a villain as Thanos was. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't think I don't think the representation of Kang we're going to get is going to be like capable as a villain to be able to take on the Avengers physically and like defeat them, like 1-on-7 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see Kang being able to do that. I think I don't think that's how they're going to portray him. But I do think at the same time, though, that Biz brought up a really good point with Namor. Not that I want to open this up again, but I'm just saying how they're going to play Namor out as a character is going to be really interesting. Like what he's going to be like as a character, who they're going to cast in that role, I think is really critical. It's a really big kind of, I don't want to say it's a gamble, but it's a big character that where I see there being a little bit of a potential to potentially make a mistake maybe in going a certain direction with that character. And as far as Shuma Gorath goes, Shuma Gorath was a powerful, sometimes stated to be omnipotent, ancient demon that possesses vast supernatural powers and is stated to be the archetypical Class 3 demon. He's considered to be one of the primal power of chaos. He's a serious deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Seriously, the Shuma Gorath is more powerful than Kang. You know what I mean? He is.
Easily.
Yes. So that I think that's really important that name is brought up, because I don't know if that's something where Sam Raimi came in and changed that. I heard that it was going to be Nightmare that was going to be the villain of that film when Scott Derrickson was directing it.
Right.
But I guess they decided to make a change. I like it. We saw I think Shuma Gorath in the What If trailer. Those tentacles with Peggy Carter or whatever it was, that was Shuma Gorath, I think. or if it was Doctor Strange, I can't remember. But anyways, as far as can you remind me again, Lord Deathman, what exactly was the main topic that we were doing? Right, was it Kang?
At that moment, we were really talking with. We were talking with Stanton about Kang. We were talking about villains. We were talking about how this is all going to play out for the phases. So do we think that Kang is sort of going to have a huge impact on phase 4, or do we think that that's all going to sort of jump off more in phase 5?
I see. I really think I agree with everybody else that it's going to be more phase 5, and I think they're going to layer him in. Like, you're going to see him in phase 4 probably pop up in multiple different versions. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see in the Eternals like Kang as like Rama Tut. And if
that would be awesome.
I hope they do that, because if they do that, then they're going to have to go ahead and introduce Al Sabah at that point, and like that ties into X-Men. There's Apocalypse right there, you know what I mean? Like, and I want to see that, because I'm telling you right now, I'm sorry, but like Cyber doesn't agree with me on this, but I think the Fox version of like Apocalypse was garbage, personally. Like,
and he doesn't agree with you on that? Wow.
No, he thinks it was.
Then we have to have a talk with him, because
Oh,
it was garbage.
we have to burn him at the stake.
Great.
And it
Intervention
wasn't
time.
Oscar Isaac's fault. I will mention that, but that's a great actor. But no, that Apocalypse, yikes.
We need a do-over on that in the MCU, but it would be awesome to see Rama Tut and or Apocalypse in the Eternals, since we're going to be doing so much time hopping with them because of their longevity. But as always, you always have a lot to contribute here, Jeff, and I think that this is a good segue to bring you in on this particular question. I really want to know from you, what is your most and sort of least anticipated releases coming out of Phase 4? And I'm going to read you a link.